I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Andrea Hylen to talk about her article in the September-October issue of On Purpose magazine. Andrea, welcome. Thanks for being with me.
Hi, Ginny. Thank you. And thanks for this time to talk about the article. And thank you for saying yes to the journey of writing it. I really appreciate it.
Well,
Yeah.
this is our 10th conversation because you just
Oh,
wrote your 10th article in this series of 10. But before we talk about that, what do you want our viewers to know about you, Andrea?
let's see. What do I want you to know about me? That's a good question because there are always things that are coming up or changing. I'm the founder of Heal My Voice and the Incubator, an online co-working space for women creatives. I'm committed to women having a voice at the table. And when I say at the table, I'm talking about the dinner table, a table in your community, a table in your business, and a table in the world, whatever that means to you, whatever that looks like for you. Um, and right now I am immersed in being a yaya grandmother because it's been a wild few years. I have an 11-year-old granddaughter, Lucille, and who I've enjoyed getting to know as she's been growing up. And then in the past 3 years, there has been a baby. There's been a baby every year. Cooper was born 2 years ago, Seamus 1 year ago, and Inez was born in July. So we are like in babyland. I'm at my daughter's home and getting ready to go to Seattle October 1st for 6 weeks. So life is full for
Yeah,
sure.
you really did immerse yourself in that. I'm a new grandmother, just throw it out there in July
Yeah.
as well. And I'm like an every 2 week kind of grandmother. I get to see them, about every 2 weeks. Be more if my schedule would allow right now, but I think it's plenty for where they are and
Yeah.
what they're doing. And I'm just so in love. So I think it would be really cool to actually be there for like a full day and night and just kind of, see all the
Yeah.
different little
Just be.
nuances. But
Yeah.
yeah. Well, let's go back to your article. And in
Yes.
the current issue, well, you've been writing an article, a series of articles about conscious self-evolution. So I always like to ask you, for those who've never read you before or listened to one of these interviews, what inspired you to write this series of articles?
Well, first of all, Barbara Marx Hubbard, who was a futurist who died not that long ago in her late 80s or early 90s, who really had a vision back in the 50s where she felt, I mean, the way I would describe it is she got a download of a vision of what was going to happen with the world. And that was that we were going to go through lots of changes and old systems would fall apart. New systems would be built out of that for a more equitable, loving society. And she wrote a book, 52 Codes of Conscious Self-Evolution, that describes what it feels like to be in this consciousness of awakening yourself. And certainly there's no accident that we started by talking about our grandchildren. I would say from an early age, I wanted to create a world that was good for everyone. And now it's even more vital to me as I watch these next generations as I'm about to turn 68. So what am I leaving behind
Yeah.
for them? And the number one thing we can all do is actually focus on cultivating our inner world and our consciousness, and then make choices and decisions from that place. And a really easy way to say it is you can say, I am a loving person, and then make choices and decisions that are based on controlling people or trying to get something. And again, I mean, it's natural in humans, even in our conversations, you could say this is a transactional conversation because there's give and take, right? There's like we'll go back and forth. So that becomes transactional, even just the energy exchange that is there. But what kind of world do you want to live in? Um, and I know you haven't asked me this question, but it was something that I wrote down a couple of days ago that I wanted to really get on this recording. And that is, I am not talking about living in a la la land of spiritual bypass, where it's like, if I'm a loving person, I will always say what we might define as loving things. Sometimes a loving thing is actually standing up and using a louder voice,
Mm.
letting someone know that you are angry about the choice or decision that they have made. The protesting that we all, no matter who you're voting for this election in the country that you're in, you have the right to go and protest the way that the current, whatever the government is that is doing. And you don't have to protest everything. I mean, who has time for like live your life, live your life and pick a couple of things that are just really important to you. And that to me is conscious self evolution because we're saying that if the thing I want to be focused on is better drinking water for everyone, then I'm going to use my voice. I'm going to tell people when I'm angry about the toxicity in water that affects children. So just know that we're not talking about being a loving person is actually caring about other people
Yeah.
and being able to use your voice for that. So yeah, that's what I've got to say about that. But I really wanted to make sure that the listeners understood that. We're not talking about Kumbaya, my Lord, and then ignore all the other stuff. It's like, no,
Yeah.
stand up, use your voice.
Thank you for plugging that in because I think it really is important because it can sound like that sometimes.
Mhm.
That let's just be nice. And I see posts on Facebook where people say, you know, it's kind of like a why can't we all just get along post, but it's really about, we can disagree and we can, but yet there it goes deeper than that because if you're saying things that really strike at my core of my value system, or if you're talking about harming people I care about,
Right.
in a broad sense,
Mhm.
then I'm not going to get along with you probably,
Mhm.
so it sounds very lovely,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's
yeah,
not real. It's not the real world. And that's kind of like putting the head, our head in the sand and going, la la la, or like this. And
yeah.
I struggle with this. We talked about it before we got online about um just this idea of how much do I want to say, like on Facebook on my personal page. And I'm very cautious about that because I think anybody who knows me knows where I stand on everything, probably. And a lot of people know where I stand just by nuance, you know, but I don't have the bandwidth or the energy to engage after like blowing something up. I just can't, I
Sure.
don't have it to go back and forth and that's just, I don't think that's my gift. And I'm using my gifts in other ways to heal the planet. So, but it's really good to keep that conscious about, intention. Really, I think so much of it is just intention.
It is. And energy management is one of those things too.
Yeah.
It's that that for each of us to know what else are we holding in the world and meaning our lives, our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
And then knowing what you can do. And I saw some people on Facebook posting about how they were doing things politically with a postcard campaign
Mm.
because that was something that in the lives that they had, whether they were raising children or had a job that took a lot of their energy and time, it was something they knew they could do in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
They could find the time to do that. And for other people, it's going to be standing outside of the White House or
Mhm.
the Parliament building or wherever in your country. That is so energy management's part of it also, and knowing how we're wired. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the title, this is your 10th article. So you picked out 10 codes, or there may be more than 10 because I think you did a couple together, I
I
think.
might have, yeah, a couple,
Um,
but
yeah. But
10
there's
plus.
52 in all. So if you want to know more about that, everybody just go look up the book and get the
Yeah.
book and read about it. But the 52nd code, is this the last code, right? The book is
Yeah,
victory is assured to all whose consciousness is shifting. And it may sound like we've gotten off track a little bit, where we just took a little sidebar, but everything we just talked about is about shifting consciousness
it is.
and
It
awareness.
is.
And so you start your article by sharing how the meaning of the word victory has shifted for you over the years. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, I felt like when the way that I used to think about victory was in some kind of, being a winner. You're
Hmm.
like, I mean, and it's funny because when I was reading the article, when I was writing the article, the Olympics were happening or had just happened. And so it was like, oh, victory is getting a gold, silver, or bronze, And then, but when you're older, you start to realize that it's like anytime you put attention or effort into anything, there is some level of victory. Think about the people who even made it to the Olympics, you know? Think about the people who even attempted to make it to the Olympics. So nothing is lost. There's no, like, victory is just showing up in your life. And I know I wrote in the article also that a win may be getting out of bed in the morning. And that comes from the realization of there have been people I've worked with who have had chronic illness or they have had uh sorry, I just got like an unexpected phone call that came across the page, so just take a moment here. But it could be that they have a chronic illness. It could be that they feel um depressed. It could be that they've had a loss um, that makes it hard to even function in the world. And so getting out of bed in the morning, or if you went to bed last night and there was just, you saw something happening in the world and you feel helpless or hopeless, getting out of bed in the morning can be a win.
Hmm.
It can be deciding that you do want to come from a place of love, joy, and peace, and that you hold the intention. Um, I just recently, this just popped into my mind. I bought a couple of gratitude journals for my daughters and my granddaughter. And gratitude has been a practice that they grew up with, that I always had a book in the living room for anyone to write gratitude at any time. But uh, a friend's daughter created these gratitude journals, and so I thought, oh, I'll do that and let's do it. So October 1st through the 31st, we're going to be on a text thread, and I said, and there's no pressure to share what they wrote as a gratitude, but it's just to let each other know that we're holding gratitude in our family right now. And so that every day we will have that energy. And I believe that because we're all, I mean, first of all, I believe we're all connected in the whole world, but I'm going to focus on my group of daughters and the granddaughter who can write. And then we're going to focus on gratitude and just knowing that we're all holding that for each other. And within that, I believe that that then ripples out to each other and ripples out to the world, whether that means we're carrying gratitude in our heart as we walk through the grocery store, or wherever we are in our lives, that we're holding that as an energy, as a foundation. So that to me is victory. Yeah.
I love that whole idea, Andrea, and I do so agree with you that that does ripple out, and gratitude is one of the highest vibrations, if not, well, love, but
Mhm.
gratitude is right up there. If we live in this place of gratitude, it's really challenging to not be in joy. We
Mhm.
can be unhappy in gratitude, I think, because
Sure.
I don't think happiness and joy are the same thing.
Yeah.
But I believe we can be in joy when we're in grief. But
Hmm.
there's this gratitude, and I don't write in my journal as much as I used to, my daily journal, but by doing that so much over the last 20 some years, I feel like I'm almost like walking in it. I'll just find myself saying thank you so much during the day because it's just a natural process to kind of notice everything around me and oh, yes, that person just, and it's a great thing to come back to when I'm starting to feel like hopeless about some things, because there is still so much to be grateful for out there.
Mhm. Absolutely. And if anyone doesn't resonate with the word gratitude, because I know sometimes there can be words that, you know, can be carried over from childhood, for instance, of like, well, you better be grateful for this or whatever. It could be like a negative. Find another word. I mean, I love appreciation. I
Hmm.
feel like appreciation is just has a really higher. So I want to say that also that even though we're doing it as gratitude, there are other words to choose that you
Yeah.
then hold that vibration, that intent in your body, and that is conscious self-evolution. That
Mhm.
is saying that I want to evolve to a place where it's funny, I just in front of me I see Barbara's definition of self-evolution.
That
She
was going to be my next question. I was going to ask you to talk about that.
All right, let me
The
just read
difference
it then.
between that and self-development, right?
Yeah, while self-development works toward improvement, self-evolution offers a new template. It is open-ended. We have not yet seen the full model of what we can become, and that is the evolution. Hopefully, we're always looking to do better, be better, you know. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that quote?
Well, when I read
I'll
it,
flip it.
I
I'll
got
flip it.
chills. I remember, and
Uh-huh.
when I read it again this morning, preparing for this, because it's so full of possibility
Yes.
and it doesn't have there's no restrictions, there's no boundaries, there's no, you must do this to get to this. It's
Right.
just open-ended, I think might even be in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, what we're going to be talking about in a little bit is ways that we can actually practice that.
Hmm.
And there's some really simple ways that you write about that we can practice that, which we'll get into in a few minutes. One that I consider a little more challenging, but some of them are a little simple. We just have to do some digging, but you don't need anything. You don't need anything to practice these at all.
Right.
So let me see where I want to go with that now. You write what kind of world do we want to live in? And then you gave some beautiful examples from your childhood and a little bit later of how you started to see the world maybe differently or started to see possibilities. I'd love for you to pick one of those
Hmm.
stories and share it.
Well, it's interesting. I'll share about Mama Cass Elliot because that was something her song, There's a New World Coming. And the one we've had visions of, coming in peace, coming in joy, coming in love. And it was something that I first heard when I was around 13, I think, or 14, and was babysitting two little girls. And it came up for me when my granddaughter was born this summer, Inez Meisa. And her first name was chosen from, she was a suffragette. And so my daughter chose that as her name. But I just started looking at her like, what's a song that I want to pass on to you? And it just started coming. There's a new world coming. And every time I sing that song to her, I mean, she loves music and she's kind of funny because she's we all swear she sings with us. Like if you sing with her, she just makes sounds and like is singing. That's her thing. But her whole body lights up when
Ah,
I sing that song. And when I say coming in peace, coming in joy, coming in love, just beams with that. It's like, yes, this is the intention that we're holding. And my grandmother brought in love into my life, and I'm passing that on,
mhm.
as a legacy, a world of peace, joy, and love.
And again, to even see that as a possibility, you have to work on raising your consciousness, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And be able to see that I think that it's important to understand that sometimes things have to fall apart in
Yeah.
order to have something, have the breakthrough come. And we've all had it where we've thought something and then we got a different perspective on it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that, life is messy. I put in the article, so is cooking and art and gardening.
All the good stuff is messy,
All
right?
the good stuff is messy. Even holding a new baby who, when they burp, they're messy. Mhm.
Oh, you're so right. Uh, so then I did mention that we're going to talk about, some of the steps that you can take at this stage of self-evolution. And I think five of them are just no-brainers, kind of understandable, while they might take a little digging to come up with your own list. But the one that I think is a bit more complex is the first one. And you write, set an intention to raise your consciousness, even if you don't exactly know what that means. Look at everything from a higher perspective. How can we condition ourselves? How can we, this is my writing this, how can we condition ourselves, do you think, to look at things from a higher perspective?
And it's a good question, and I can actually feel it as you're asking. I can feel what that feels like to be consciously raising to be raising my consciousness. So the words that are coming to me are number one, slow down with your life. And hey, if you're a short order cook and all the orders are coming in and you've got to cook fast, all right, that's a time where you're going to be fast. But at some point during your day, slow down and begin to have a practice where you are, I'll call it witnessing what you're thinking and what you are about to speak into the world. If you are going to post something on social media, pause before you press the button to see what is your intention in putting it out there. How do you feel about putting it out there? And can you stand in what you are saying?
Mm.
And it's like sometimes just even being more conscious about the words we're using or when we are speaking or not speaking. Something I've repeated many times is that an empowered voice knows when to listen, an empowered voice knows when to speak, an empowered voice knows when to stand on a mountaintop and shout their message. Right. And so all of these take slowing down to be more conscious about what you are putting out into the world, what you are speaking. And I would say I'm hesitating to say, is this really true? Yeah, I feel like we can slow down and just not put things out there as fast. Give yourself a little bit of a, pause, little bit of a stop sign here. Stop here before you put it out there. And if you think that you have to just throw things out onto social media or throw things out in a conversation, have compassion for yourself and then take a step back and ask if that's really true. And how is that? Like, what is your intention with that? You
Yeah.
know? And if you feel like you have a lot of fear or anger or any lower emotion, I did write this in the steps also. it's good to acknowledge and feel the feelings and then turn your attention to something that gives you hope
Yeah.
and decide in that first one, if you're looking at it from a higher perspective, is it something, sometimes you do need to say a larger truth, or sometimes there's, maybe you're trying to convey something to family member or a partner and they're not listening, and it requires some, not coming from like the higher perspective, but actually getting down in the trenches and yelling about something. Like sometimes that's the only way through, and then you create the blow up, you create the thing that can like clear the way, the demolition that has to come in.
Yeah. And
But
I
for
think
the
we can
most
do
part, we can slow down. But for the most part, I just want to say we
yeah.
can slow down and do it differently.
I really love that. And I think the blowing up piece can also be done from a higher perspective, like you said, if we know what our intention is in doing it,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that requires, again, stepping back. When you talked about just step back and say, do I need to say this? I love the three questions that Wayne Dyer always posed before saying something. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And some things may be true and they may not be kind, but they may be, or they might be perceived as kind, but they may be necessary, like you said, and we may be coming, but if we can come from a kind space, you know, I had an experience the other day where I wanted to reply to something on an email, and it wasn't anything really negative necessarily, but I was having a trusting thing with this person. And my reply that I initially was going to write was like a backdoor kind of reply, like being a little snarky, but being nice with it. You know what I mean? I was just noticing what was going
Mm-hmm.
through my head.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
stopped and said, what do I really want to convey here?
Mm-hmm.
I want to convey the absolute facts of this is what you said, and this is what I think the truth is. And so, where are we on this? But I wanted to kind of like get around that. I didn't want the conflict, but I don't know, I wanted to be right about it. I think it's kind of hard to explain now that I'm
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
about it, but it's
No,
that,
I get it. I
you
get
know,
it. Yeah.
that what's my intention in doing this? And I will tell you, since I started asking myself that a number of years ago, don't always do it, but when I do, I say a lot less,
Mm-hmm.
or I just more straightforward with it and, lay things out because it's just a simpler way to live.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go on to some of you want to say more about
I
that?
want to say one other thing about kindness.
Hmm.
I have been so committed to being kind in my life that there have been times where I put being kind above actually being kind to myself.
Yes.
And I would place myself in situations where there was emotional harm that was being done. And it's not easy to change that kind of behavior and feel like you're a negative person or whatever, or that it hurts someone. But if you're like in a situation where you think about kindness, are you being kind to yourself? Are you protecting the the little child inside of you? Are you protecting your essence? And so that I think that's one of the things with conscious self-evolution, that when you're in a practice like this and you start to see it as, well, I don't exactly know what this means, but I am going to practice looking at it from a higher perspective. You can start to find things that you realize, okay, I'm going to say no to this person. As a matter of fact, I even need to shout no to them to let myself know that I will stand up for me. And that's part of that's part of the practice.
Yeah. Oh, it's so important, Andrea. Thank you for bringing up that point because I think we need to redefine kindness. It's
Yeah.
kindness is not being a good girl.
Right, right. Always
And
being nice, even though
yeah,
you say, I I don't like how this person is treating me. You
Mhm.
know, it's yeah.
Right. And that kind word and nice and good and all of that is a moniker that gets stuck on women way more than men.
Oh my gosh,
It's
absolutely.
that. I mean, I
Absolutely.
love a kind man. I do love a kind man.
Yes.
But I never think about loving a kind woman because most women I know are just naturally kind,
It-
you know, to that definition. So, but it's but we've taken that word and mushed it all up with the other words like good and nice and perfect, all those behaviors. Yeah.
Yep. All kinds of things. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot to unpack with that
There
one.
is a lot to unpack. I
Mhm.
don't want to go over the rest of these because I want people to read the article to find
Yeah.
out ways, but is there one that particularly, you did mention one already? Um,
Yeah, that's probably, well, I always love embrace art, pictures of nature, music that lifts you, books that paint a picture of a new world that works for everyone.
mhm,
Um, and the thing that I'll add to that, because I was just writing about this today, is how important it is to draw attention to art that has been made by women and people of color. And to have that, I was writing something about how whenever I write a prompt for my writing groups, I will look for quotes as a way of starting it out. And it's really easy to find quotes by white men. It's
mhm.
like if you do a search on a topic, those are the ones that usually come up first. And so the more that we dig a little bit deeper to look for a quote by someone else and bring that into our consciousness. So embracing art, pictures of nature, music that lifts you, expand to all people and bring that into your heart, bring that into your world, because that to me is creating the world I want to live in with all types of voices in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I want to say to anybody watching, if you're watching this live or the replay, Andrea does share more steps and a little bit more information in her article. You can find that at opwgc.com/magazine. And that information is in the text of this video. If you want to check out Andrea's 9 other articles on conscious self-evolution, you can go to the archives on the magazine page, and that link is also in the text of this video. So, Andrea, how can our viewers find out more about you?
You can go to andreahylen.com and there's ancestral offerings because I do ancestral lineage healing, and there are offerings that have to do with writing as well as blogs that I write challenging the way that we think. Yeah.
Is there anything coming up you want to let us know about?
The incubator actually opens on Friday, and that's for women, an online co-working space for women. If you go to the website, there's a that not only is there a description of it, but I did a talk for On Purpose Woman about upleveling archetypes, rewriting the stories of women and men. And that will be a topic I'll be writing about in the backdrop of this space where women are writing books, blogs, and developing things in themselves. Yeah.
And you can find that interview and lots of other interviews and talks by Andrea on our YouTube channel as well. So, Andrea, as we wrap this up, please share a final thought with our viewers.
Hmm. Well, the one that always comes to me is your voice matters.
Mm.
And so tune in and use the voice that comes from your soul, your heart, and that brings forth the world that you want to live in. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your gifts that you give to this community, to the magazine, to the On Purpose Women Global community. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and for giving so many of us ways that we can live our life a little bit differently and to consciously self-evolve and to create the world we want to live in. I really appreciate you so much. Thank you.
And likewise to you, Ginny. Thanks. Thanks to the listeners. Bye bye.
Yes. Thank you all for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. And for more information on the On Purpose Women Global Community and magazine, please click on the links in this video and be sure to check out Andrea's website, which is also in the link. The link is also in the text of the video. And for more information and for more interviews with amazing women living their lives on purpose and making their unique difference, do check out our YouTube channel, which is in the text of this video if you're on Facebook. And if you're on the YouTube channel, you've already found us there. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to us while you're there. Thanks again. Bye.